Hey, a few years ago, I had a workout partner who I felt always showed up late. And we worked out at 6 a.m. and he would come in around 6:01, 6:02. And I am a time freak. I mean, I've got some time issues. If you say that you're going to be somewhere at a certain time, you better be there. If something is starting at a certain time, I believe that it ought to start at that time. I believe it's part of keeping your word. When you say X time, I believe it. That's what you said. It's what you said. So he would come in about 6:01, 6:02, and I would go, dude, you're late. He'd go, no, I'm not. I was here. I was in the parking lot at 6. I said, you weren't here at 6. You were there at 6. Because here meant the workout was starting. 6 meant we are already into the workout for me, because that's my timing issue. And time's a big issue for all of us because we don't know how much we have, right? We're not sure how long we're going to be here to do our work. We think about time marches on, or like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives. My grandmother always watched that show. Hey, my name is Paul Evans. I'm a student of Scripture and of spirituality, and we're in a series on Christ-conscious practices. Some of the ways that Christ practiced his spirituality, not simply arrived and had everything together as often is the mindset, but he actually put things into practice. And one of those things is his awareness about time and about timing. If you don't already like this channel, go ahead and do that. Subscribe, hit the notifications button so we can go through this series together. Also sign up for the 1010 Life Letter at 1010lifeletter.com. So the book of John, or the Gospel of John, within it, some have labeled it the book of hours, because Christ was really aware of timing and when was the right time. And we want to know that. We want to know when the right time is happening, and when it's time to move forward, when it's time to share news, when it's time to take the job, when it's time to make a different move toward a different direction or a new path. All of these things are of interest to us. A lot of that's related to purpose, feeling like that I've got my timing right in this situation. And we know that timing actually does make a difference, right? We know that if we are focused on sharing news at a particular time, we know that works a lot better than if we've mistimed it. So the Christ was very aware, and there are two phrases that were used several times in the Gospel of John. One is the hour has not yet come, and the other one, the hour has come. So this timing that he practiced and was aware of. So in John 2:4, at a wedding, they ran out of wine, and you've probably heard of the miracle of turning water into wine, or you've heard it referenced. And so his mom comes to him and says, hey, they're out of wine. And he says, woman, and that wasn't derogatory, woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come. In other words, the time for me to do something that draws attention to my ministry has not arrived yet. Well, it was his mom. And so she says, hey, whatever he tells you to do, do it. And even though his time wasn't there yet, his hour had not come, he went ahead and did what his mama said, like any good boy does. John 7, 6, and 8. His brothers urged him to go up to Judea for the Feast of Tabernacles. He says, my time has not yet come. Your time is always here. In other words, if I go up right now to the feast, what really needs to happen there won't happen because the timing is not right. John 7:30, after he teaches in the temple, and he gets a crowd upset and they want to seize him and some want to arrest him, no one lays hands on him because his hour had not yet come. So this is a little bit different, because in the other scenes, he is acknowledging the timing isn't right. In this scene, simply because the timing is not right, it doesn't come about. And I think we've had that happen in our lives when we look back and go, oh, that just didn't happen because the timing wasn't right. That's what happens here. In John 8:20, he speaks in the temple treasury, and though his words stir controversy, nobody arrests him because his hour had not yet come. And so on two levels, when it comes to the right timing, we can say, hey, it's not the right time. We say it. In other ways, we look around us and realize the timing just doesn't seem right because it's not aligned. The environment doesn't seem conducive. The things going on in our lives indicate that now's not the right time. So those are passages about the hour has not yet come. And then the hour has come. In John 12:23 and 24, as he nears his crucifixion, he says the hour has come. The hour has come. Now is the right time. John 13:1, before the Passover festival, Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world. He knew that timing. That's interesting too, because we probably know people who realize, you know what, this is the end of my life. And it's not from doing something dangerous, but just that awareness. John 17:1, in his prayer, Jesus says, Father, the hour has come. Glorify your Son, that your Son may glorify you. So he's got this awareness about this hour, about this purpose, about this mission. So the hour is not yet come and the hour has come. And that's cool to read and figure out and spend some time, maybe more time in those passages if you want to. But the real question is, what's that got to do with me, right? How do I determine the right timing? A lot of that's going to be intuitive. A lot of that you're just going to have this knowing. But if you're wanting some practices, which I always love, and I love tools and resources, here are several. Number one is prayer and meditation. So regularly asking about that. Is this the right time? What should I be doing right now? What doors are opening right now? And sense that timing. And then listening. Often we'll lift up a prayer and we leave. Lift it up and leave. I like what David said, early in the morning, I lay my request before you and I wait in expectation. And so not simply praying and leaving, but lifting and listening, lifting and listening. Sit there in that stillness and see if you can sense that answer or hear an answer about the right timing. And then certainly part of this prayer meditation is meditating. Sitting in that stillness, contemplating on maybe even these passages about timing and seeking that awareness and seeking that alignment. So number one is prayer and meditation. Number two, the Holy Spirit's leading. So sensing the Spirit. And this can be a little bit tougher for us, for those of us who may feel a little bit more independent and feeling like we've got things figured out, or we're able to sit down and work through timing elements ourselves. And so with the Spirit, we're seeking that leading. So we could be following the Spirit, that we actually see, all right, here's the direction that I sense the Spirit is going, I'm going to follow. Or the fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And we're seeking timing by an awareness of that fruit in our lives, and that is enabling us to see the direction that is positive to be going. And then simply discernment, sitting quietly and just sensing. And I've probably mentioned before, I've got a guidance practice that I like where I will write out a question and I'll listen. And I'll just start really dictating, and the answer just kind of flows out. I'm not trying to make up the thought. I'm just letting the pen flow. And I see that as the Spirit's leading. And it's very helpful with timing. In fact, I've got a decision right now in my life that I would love for the timing to be, now's the time to move on. But I sense that it's not the time. So I'm having to hang out in it. But that's really the Spirit's leading. Number three is patience and waiting. Patience and waiting. This is what I'm terrible at. I don't know if you are, but embracing possibly delays, embracing that, it's not the right timing. Things aren't lining up right now. I'm going to be in a spirit and posture of waiting, and then learning from the seasons. Is this the right season right now? And as we know that our seasons in nature and in our environment, we have to recognize those and We appreciate those. So we may have a winter season where some things need to die off. We may have a spring season where things are in bloom. May have a summer season where there's growth, but there's also that heating up. And then we may have that fall where the leaves are being cast away and there's some things to discard. It doesn't mean that it has to die yet, but just some things that need to be discarded. And so we want to learn from the seasons. And then number 4 is just practical discernment tools, such as journaling or fasting. And part of this timing is recognizing what works best for you. Journaling works really well for me. This past week, I'm in an Artist Way group, and in chapter 4, chapter 4, we talked about how we need to be deprived of something. And so one of the things that Julia Cameron talks about was not reading. And I love to read. And when I saw that, I went, wow, that's crazy. Because she was saying, we've got everybody else's words in our head. And so getting rid of that for a week and not reading for a week enabled me to hear my own thoughts. And sometimes that's what we need for timing. And so part of our practices or our tools may be deprivation, getting rid of some things, getting rid of social media or watching the news and sitting back and really being sensitive to timing so that we're not being distracted by everything else. And then also whether it's journaling or like fasting, that's actually deprivation in a lot of ways, to say I'm going to do without, I'm going to fast from this so that I can be a lot more open, a lot more sensitive to what needs to be done right now. So timing's huge. And Jesus was very aware of the timing in his life. The hour has not yet come. The hour has come. Let's move into that practice. Let's move into this awareness of timing instead of always being just reactive. Let's make sure that we're aware of not just what step we need to make, but actually when it needs to be made. If you got any questions about timing, feel free to make a comment, or if you're part of the 1010 Life Letter, just respond to any of my emails and we'll address some of those ideas, thoughts, questions, maybe even concerns. Be blessed.